I'd like to invite Reverend Stephen Bates to lead the reflection. Will you please stand?
Thank you. Well, I guess you might have noticed that today is St. David's Day. St. David being the patron saint of Wales. St. David, or Dewi Sant, was a leading figure and a monk in the early Welsh church who lived in the 6th century, and he founded a monastic community. He lived a simple, austere life in the Celtic monastic tradition, and that tradition connected the people of Wales with Ireland, Cornwall, France and the Scottish Isles. He drew followers from all over Wales and travelled a great deal going around preaching. There are various stories about David's life. Some of them are not always what we would consider factual. But something we do know about him is this, that his last words to those he led were, "Be joyful, keep the faith, do the little things you have seen me do." He said this to inspire them to live the way he lived, as a faithful servant of God and a faithful servant of other people. Well, David's story and other stories of saints' lives were written to inspire people to follow the example of these people, to lead a life of service. In my own church, the Church of England, we have a calendar of those who can still inspire us today. And of course, it includes St. David today and others who led inspirational lives all the way throughout the year. So I wonder, who inspires you? And what do you admire about them? Who was it, in fact, who first inspired you to serve your communities as counsellors? Who inspires me? There's a thought. So let's just reflect for a moment on those things. Who inspires me? What is it about them that I admire? Who was it who first inspired me to become a counsellor? And finally, who might you inspire in turn? Let us pray. We give you thanks, Lord, for our district council, for all those who serve as councillors, for all those who serve on our committees, and for the skills and experience of all our council and its employees. We pray for all who bear the responsibility of serving in this council. Enable them to be thoughtful and wise in all the decisions they make. We remember all the services that our council is responsible for, and may the decisions of our councillors promote the well-being of all our communities, and may the most vulnerable members of our communities be supported and help to live fulfilling lives. We ask this through Jesus Christ our Lord. Amen.
Amen. Thank you. You may be seated. Thank you. Firstly, I would like to thank Reverend Stephen Bates for his welcome tonight. Stephen, thank you very much. I want to mention a few events tonight. The first is the Holocaust Memorial event, which took place on Thursday, the 26th of January. I'm sure all of you who attended will agree with me that this was a very moving and thought-provoking evening. We were shown a video where a survivor from the Holocaust spoke of his experiences and some shocking accounts from the genocide that is occurring in Darfur. 2 students from Kharkiv in Ukraine told us stories of their lives since February 2022. They are both now living in Hertford and attend Simon Ball School. The courage that these 2 young girls showed is totally incredible. I would like to thank Councillor Jonathan Kay for organising this event and running it on the night. I hope this event continues to run annually, as it is so important and relevant to ensure that we never forget. The next thing is a very, very important thing, and that is that this meeting tonight is the very last meeting for our leader, Councillor Linda Hasey. So I thought it would be right and proper that we pay a tribute to her tonight. Councillor Hasey has been an East Herts councillor for nearly 20 years and the council leader for the past 8 years. During her time as leader, this council has adopted the district plan in 2018 and has conceived, planned and constructed several capital schemes, including Grange Paddocks, and started several capital schemes such as Old River Lane, Harton Pool refurbishment and Hertford Theatre reconstruction, among many others. And at this point, I'd like to hand over to a few councillors who are going to pay their own tributes. So firstly, can I go to Councillor Rutland Barsby, please?
Thank you, Chair. Linda, a good and loyal friend. A leader that has enhanced the reputation both at home and across the county and region of this council. And don't let us forget her banging on the door of the minister to get our district plan passed. Fearless, intelligent, forthright, articulate. When I was elected in 2003, Tim Robertson then became the member for Hertford Rural South. Sadly, Tim died before his time in 2005. I had a thought and spoke to the then leader, Tony Jackson, saying I knew an ideal prospect as a candidate. I then approached Linda and she agreed to be put forward. I didn't spin her the yarn that was given me by Mr. Ruffles, that I was only a paper candidate and there was no hope I'd get elected. At the by-election, she was duly elected, and joining the council, Tony soon recognised he had a huge talent, and she was elevated to the executive quite swiftly. In 2015, after the election, she became our leader and has achieved much. It is sad to see you go. Thank you for all your hard work. A bit of a rumour I've heard. Nicola Sturgeon, when she heard Linda was moving to Scotland, she went into a rapid retreat. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Rutland Barsby. And I'm going to go to Councillor Norma Simons, please.
Linda, what can I say? You have been an inspiration to me. You've never judged me because of my past. You've been there to help me, encourage me. And at times when I overstepped the mark, they always went to you to tell me off. That wasn't very often. I'm going to miss you hugely because you've been there for me and giving me my role as working with the homeless and families has been a real pleasure, and I'm still doing it today. Linda, Jeff has got something under his chair. Take it out the plastic. Now, his name is Hector. And Hector is desperate to go back to Scotland. He doesn't like being amongst the Sassenachs. So if you could take Hector with you, that would be great. So thank you again, Linda, for all you've done for me and my family as well. And you take care.
Thank you, Councillor Simons. Now I'm going to go to the Deputy Leader, Councillor Jeff Williamson.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, I'd like to pay my own tribute to Linda as our leader, position she's held for the last 8 years, as you pointed out. In my experience, Linda has always led from the front, never afraid to tackle things head on, and has shown she's prepared to take difficult and sometimes controversial decisions, but always putting East Council first. Among her many strengths are her canny and shrewd perception of issues, which she deals with warmth and her distinctive personal touch. She has shown vision, often over the horizons of the rest of us. In character, Linda is a force of nature, forthright and highly driven. A leader has to inspire followers who want to follow, and she has so often remembered to remind us of those reasons why we want to follow, and never commanded through dictatorial instruction. Linda can be abrupt and direct when, after much challenge and persistence, she has needed to close a debate, but she has always permitted that debate first, the sign of her strong, confident leadership. From my own time on the executive, I can vouch that Linda has shown a great deal of support to me and others, always able to give sound advice when we've needed it. Linda will give us the benefit of her wisdom on any matter and make constructive contributions to all that we do. And we should not forget what Linda has achieved for her own portfolio, notably bringing our district plan through to final adoption in 2018, and all the time she has given to Harlow and Gilston Garden Town in order to achieve the best overall outcome. And also her roles on external bodies. Linda has been on the board of the Hertfordshire LEP, been highly instrumental with the work of the Hertfordshire Growth Board, and has been chair of the East of England Local Government Association. In this way, she has enhanced the council's reputation amongst our peers, enabling us often to punch above our weight. So I'd like to thank you for all your years of service and for your strong and effective leadership of this council, wishing you well for the future. And just on a final personal note, my only regret is that we never sorted out the Ashley Webb shelter in the time while you were still leader.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. I'm now going to go to the opposition parties, the leaders of all the opposition parties, who were all very much in favour of paying a tribute to you. So, so first of all, we're going to go to the leader of the Liberal Democrats, Councillor Miney Goldspink, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, indeed, I would like to add my words of thanks to those of the people who have already spoken. I'd like to thank Linda Hazy very much for your many years of dedicated service to this council and to the people of East Herts. Linda and I are not of the same party, and we have had differences of opinion and approaches over the years. But I do believe that Linda has been completely sincere in her wish to do the very best for East Herts. She has worked amazingly hard from early in the morning. I know because I've had early emails from her, early in the morning to late at night, not only on internal council matters work, but also on outside wider organisations, where Linda has represented East Herts, and you have been our champion there on these other organisations. I salute and respect you for all your hard work for the district. I would also like to thank you very much for the courteous and very fair manner in which you have treated the members of the opposition parties. You've always been very generous towards us, and we're really grateful. Thank you very much. Finally, I'd like to wish you all the best for the future, for your retirement, and I hope that you will have a happy and very enjoyable retirement. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Goldspink. I'm going to go to the Green Party now. Councillor Crystal, please.
Thanks, Chair. Linda, what can I say? You'll be pleased to know that I think you've not made our life over here particularly comfortable. We've got the new chairs, obviously, but you kept us on our toes. And obviously, as Miney said, there's lots of things that we don't agree on. But I think the important thing to remember is there have been lots of things that we have agreed on, and I think that's an important thing to focus on. Yeah, I completely echo Miney's words on your hard work. Many committees. I've lost count. But I think it's. I'm worried about the Scots. With the SNP clearly no. But bon voyage. I'm just sorry that we discovered your cake in this final week. But good luck.
Thank you, Councillor Crystal. And finally, for the Labour Party, Councillor Caroline Redfern, please.
Thank you. Linda, in just 4 years, I'm a newcomer and belonging to this council. I've witnessed how hard many local councillors work to help their community in East Herts. As the leader of the council, you've undoubtedly put in the largest amount of time and energy to do just this. I know that Linda was on many decision-making committees as adjuncts to your leader's duties. This must have required hours of preparation and background reading, and I salute you for the sheer amount of work you must have done. I think that you're going to have a lot of adjusting to do on retiring. So I just wanted to say thank you, Linda, for your work, and I wish you a happy retirement. And I have to add that I really don't expect you to stay in full retirement for very long.
Thank you, Councillor Redfern. I'm going to present you with something now. Sorry, I haven't finished my announcements yet. There's still more to come. I also want to wish all members who are standing down in May the very best wishes with their future plans, and there's a couple I just want to mention specifically. Firstly, Councillor Peter Ruffles, who has been an East Herts councillor since 1976, 47 years. Peter has served on all three tiers of local government. He has been Hertford Mayor twice and East Herts Chairman twice. He has been Vice Chair of County and has represented Seal and Bengio wards. He is currently an alderman for the County Council. Peter says every 4 years that he will not stand again, but I believe this time he is serious. His knowledge of Hertford in particular, but also of Hertfordshire, is immense. He has been a friend and mentor for a lot of the Hertford councillors, and for them and for the rest of us, his leaving will be a sad loss. I just want to call on Councillor Sally Newton, who just wants to say a few words. Councillor Newton.
Thank you very much, Mr. Chairman. When I first came on 20 years ago, it was through Peter. And he has been my inspiration, I think, is the word of the evening, for 20 years on all three tiers of local council. And the first thing he did when I started was ensure that I didn't say anything. So this is by way of coming full circle. And I want to say thank you for the people of Hertford, particularly as a councillor. Your attention to detail is profound. And I think that's why, as we've gone on through all the difficult times as well as the good times, you will still be able to just refer back and keep continuity in our debates when everybody goes off half-cock. And it's absolutely superb that when we've had a long debate, you finish off with your summing up of it. And that is usually the way we all go. So thank you, Peter, from everybody in Hertford and the people you represent. 47 years, I can't even imagine. So we'll miss you dearly. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Newton.
Chairman, can I just say that was entirely unexpected and I'm not worthy of them, but I'm glad they made you laugh at any rate, because there's a great deal of pleasure in doing this job, as well as what some people put forward as self-sacrifice. I've really enjoyed and benefited from the work. There is work, there is commitment, but I've loved doing it. And I think that probably applies to most members of the chamber, that we do benefit as well. Not quite in the way that some of the public think we do in our pockets, because that's not easy to see. But as people, I think we benefit by serving, and I've certainly benefited in my 47, is it 47 years?
47 years.
Yes. Thank you very much, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Ruffles. I just want to mention one other councillor who unfortunately can't be with us tonight, and that is Councillor Michael McMullen, who has stood as an East Herts councillor since 1999, so that's 24 years. I'd like us to honour his commitment and active involvement in his ward of Hertford Rural North. So the very best of luck and a very big thank you to all the councillors who are stepping down this May. So one other announcement, and you've heard this before, my afternoon garden party is on Saturday the 15th of April. It's a free event, so please put it in your diaries. And now I'm going to go to Councillor Hazy for her announcements. Councillor Hazy.
Thank you. I'm not quite sure how to respond to some of those incredibly kind words. I think, Suzanne, if I may just put you right, please. One thing you did say to me was, I think you'd really enjoy doing this. It's about 2 council meetings a year and a couple of committees. And I said, yeah, I think I can manage that, because the kids were still quite small when I came on. And I think the other thing was, I was fairly dubious about doing it for that very reason, because of the children. And I had left it to the very last day to submit my nomination. And I had the agent turn up on my door, who was Stephen McPartland. And he said, right, come on, Linda, we've got to get this form signed. Get in the car. We've got to go and find 10 people to sign you up. So that's how I'm here, by driving around Hertford, well, the rural parts of Hertford, finding 10 people to sign my form with Stephen McPartland. So there we go. Norma, I think also, thank you for the bear. I will take him back to Scotland. And I suppose one thing I've learned from you is just how gruesome fruit pudding is. All right. When I go to Scotland, Norma always says, can you bring me back some fruit pudding and some white bread, please? So, all right, square sausage. All right. I normally do the fruit pudding, which you buy from the butcher, surprisingly, and it is got dried fruit in it and quite a lot of other animal stuff. And it's totally white. And even the butcher who makes it himself says to me, I find it disgusting, he said. And a lot of people eat it with custard. So do you eat it with custard, Norma?
No, Linda, I eat it with their fried egg.
Okay, all right. That sounds slightly better. So yes, thank you. I will miss this. I will miss a great deal of what we've done here, the people I've managed to meet and the opportunities I've been given. I do take part in the staff briefings, which are quarterly, and I did I just threw into the mix that one day I might now have the opportunity to learn to tap dance, at which point there was a slight sort of snigger go through the whole team's meeting. And Jonathan Gill, I can remember saying to me, are you going to come back and open Hertford Theatre? To which the answer is no. But I would like to, I'm afraid, take the opportunity of using this as my goodbye, I suppose, is the easiest way of putting it. And I think there are many of the big projects which I'm really proud of. Hertford Theatre was one of the very first I was involved with, because it was then Castle Hall and it was in my portfolio. And this was 12, 13 years ago. And it was a municipal hall. It had, for those of you who remember, it had the lovely hexagon, which was opened up for meetings and coffees. It used to be the toilets and the cloakroom. So it was just not a really great use of space. And it had the most enormous sets of kitchens. And I can remember at the time I invited all the Hertford councillors up for, cheese and biscuits at my house with a glass of wine. And I can remember one of them saying to me, but where are we going to hold the dinner and dances? And you think, I don't know, I can't remember the last time I went to a dinner and dance. Yeah, but where's the Mayor Tea Party going to go? Well, there are other places. So pushing Hertford Theatre through was, I think, the first big project that really I put my name to and wanting it to be a success. And it was, and it has become an integral part of Hertford community. We were very lucky that the opening of the theatre coincided with the launch of the King's Speech. So it was packed out. So I'm really grateful to Colin Firth for coming forward to support me in opening Hertford Theatre. We're now into redeveloping Hertford Theatre, and it's called the Legacy Project. And it will be, again, an amazing contribution, not just to Hertford, but its recognition within the region. We will then come on, and I've asked a number of my portfolio holders to go through some of their aspects of their portfolios of things that have been achieved in the last few years. And one of you did mention the district plan. There's a lot of history behind that, which I think most of you have heard. But it wasn't easy. It took a lot of work with the residents. But in fact, I think what it did do was give all of us here the guarantee as to where we were able to develop communities and sites and not be pepper potted with sites, which is, my apologies to Buntingford, because Buntingford got caught before we had a district plan in place. So it was never actually properly planned. And Jeff, I learned a lot from what you had to go through in Buntingford. So I would now like, if I may, Chairman, just ask Eric to mention some of the, I've mentioned a few of the things, but if Eric could just come through on that.
Thank you, Leader. And can I endorse everything that Jeff said earlier? It's been a pleasure to work with you on the executive, not just for the last term, last 8 years. And actually all the things I seem to be involved in, you have too. So I think you were just keeping an eye on me. But yeah, we've spent a lot of time and also on the planning, tending the Garden Town Board and all those things. So it's been a lot of working together. And we can be really proud of what we've delivered for residents over this term. And let's not forget, it's during the most challenging times this country and the world has faced. We actually started on the planning and budgeting for our major projects during the previous administration, but within months of commencing this term, we were affected by the global pandemic, which shut down so much of our economy for the greater part of 2 years. And not forgetting the huge inflationary pressures arising from COVID and the impacts of the war in Ukraine. And in various degrees, this has meant rebudgeting, business plan reviews, value engineering and retendering. But in spite of this, we have completed and opened Grange Paddocks, which now sees membership above pre-pandemic levels, and alongside that, the 3G pitch, which was also completed. Our leisure centres have exceeded the 1.1 million visits targeted in the original procurement business plan. Hartham Leisure is just down the road, is looking good, and the roof is going on, and more of the structure in place, and we can anticipate the full opening later in the summer. Currently, solar panels are being installed on the roof. Landscaping around the extension is programmed to be finished by the middle of May. It should be ready for everyone active to do the fit out in the middle of June and open soon after that. It'll be a great facility alongside the Benchmark Clay area opened last year. The leaders mentioned Hertford Theatre. That was able to get underway late last year and is visibly taking shape. I was there actually earlier this evening for another walk around to see how it's proceeding. This is an example of where no sooner had we agreed a new budget than the second bout of inflationary pressures occurred, but we remain committed to providing a superb facility, which will include an increased capacity theatre auditorium, 150-seat studio theatre, 3 cinema screens, cafe and community room. The marketing and community engagement will commence as eventually as we move through the project, and we're aiming for a phase opening May to August next year, with a full opening expected around September. And I'm going to say now, don't forget the amazing work we're doing with our parks and open spaces. I believe these are our crown jewels. They're amazing spaces we provide and maintain for our residents' physical and mental well-being. So progress is being made in the Castle Park project, which is a joint initiative with Bishop Stortford Town Council. Earlier issues have been overcome. For the skate park, the new contractor is really good. Markwell Pavilion will be a cafe and the old toilet block will become a community centre, and the new tennis courts are in. We've got green space management plans. We work with Countryside Rights of Way. The Ridgeway is done, Pishobury is being done. We've got Hartham next year, then Southern Country Park. The Hertford Castle Grounds lottery application is going in soon, which will include Cantilever Walkway, which was suggested for the theatre project, Watermill Lane upgrades to play equipment, and Thorley Wedge project to create social space for young people. So there's something there for everyone really across the district. In terms of health and well-being, we're updating our strategy. That's being done now and out to consultation with stakeholders. Our cultural strategy, we're using the UK Shared Prosperity funding towards asset mapping in the first instance, and then a grant programme for communities to deliver cultural activities to improve access and reduce isolation. And there's a listening project focusing on using drama as a tool for change and mitigating mental health issues for young people. So there's around £250,000 allocated to the cultural strategy. Our healthy hubs are providing outreach to residents and providing great links and social prescribing referrals to community stakeholders who can assist people in their physical and mental well-being. And finally, our very dynamic Dementia Friends Action Group has achieved Alzheimer's Society accreditation for the 3rd year running. So there's a great number of programs and projects being delivered for the well-being of our residents, and long may they continue. Thank you, Leader, and thank you, Chairman.
If I may just pass now to Jan Goody.
Thank you, Leader. And I too would like to say a big thank you to you for the opportunities that you've given me, and I have learnt so much from you. Now, planning and economic growth, it is a big portfolio. I have made quite a long list here of all the key achievements. I don't intend to read them all out this evening because there's a lot. So I'm going to pick a few key points and I will have the list available if anybody else would like to see it subsequent to the meeting. So here goes. Since adoption of the district plan, 2,635 homes have been delivered. Of these, up until April 2022, 792 were affordable. Those figures will be updated figures will be available in June. The council has continued its trend of annual improvements on the housing delivery test, last year being able to demonstrate 130% delivery rate, meaning that the council is not only meeting its housing need, but addressing the undersupply of previous years. We've also had £3 million of Section 106 monies to give to 27 projects in the last year, 2021-22. Master planning, to ensure that development outlined in the district plan provides well-designed, high-quality environment. The council has required all allocated sites to undergo a master planning process. 15 site-specific master plans have been completed. Supplementary planning documents, 6 have been agreed by the council, including ones on sustainability and affordable housing. Neighbourhood planning, to support communities undertaking work on neighbourhood plans. 12 neighbourhood plans have been adopted across the district. Others are underway. Development management. Our Development Management Committee is experienced and stable. They ask well-considered questions. Its professionalism has been commented on by observers. Economic development. We've launched Town Centre co-working space to accommodate the needs of freelancers, entrepreneurs and small businesses in Bishop Stortford and Ware. A business improvement district has been established in Bishop Stortford to enable its business community to thrive. We are now exploring whether this is something that Hertford businesses would like to replicate. 35 local businesses have been helped to expand or set up shop through new premises grants. We have submitted the East Herts UK Shared Prosperity Fund and Rural Prosperity Fund investment plans. We have over £2 million to be spent from this year until 2025-26. Moving on to licensing. This council is the first in the country to put in place a rigorous process for assessing taxi drivers' English competency, which utilises online testing supported by artificial intelligence. This removes any risk of subjectivity. We also have the strictest emission standards for taxis in Hertfordshire. So I'm going to wrap up now.
Jonathan, tell us about the grants.
I would do about grants. I would just start off though by talking about something that Chairman referred to earlier about Holocaust Memorial Day, because when I first came to this council in 2015 from North London, I asked Linda, does East Herts do anything for Holocaust Memorial Day? And I just expected a yes or a no. And then she said, no, but would you like to organise something? And I think I've been doing it for the last 6 or 7 years now. But also we launched the East Herts Lottery to help charities, local voluntary organisations and sports clubs raise much needed funds, which to date has generated more than £160,000 in fundraising income. We've had 28 grants to community organisations to continue to operate during the pandemic and give vital support. We've given out in community grants hundreds of thousands of pounds over the last term, the last 4 years, to help a variety of community groups throughout East Herts, initially overseen by Councillor Rutland Barsby, and then more recently myself. And we've seen the strength of those grants in different communities, villages and towns over the past 4 years, including, for example, Stort Pride, which I think Chris Wilson made reference to at the last council meeting, where Chell is in Stort Pride. I think she runs it, and are looking to expand it beyond Bishop Stortford to Hertford and Ware, and we look forward to those proposals. And the council's been granted a bronze award under the Ministry of Defence's Defence Employer Recognition Scheme, a reflection of our supportive stance towards the armed forces. So there's a number of things that have been going on in the area of community grants and minority groups and organisations that we can be well proud of. Thank you, Glenda.
Thank you very much for your indulgence, Chairman, and for you in the council chamber. Just one last thank you, and that's to our staff and our officers. We have had a most extraordinary year of changing working practices, of COVID, of not being able to go out, of not being well. But our staff have kept our functions and all the requirements of the council just getting going. They did it. One day they were in the office during COVID, the next day they were working from home. So I think we do owe them an enormous thank you, and I know I am deeply grateful to everyone that I've had the privilege of working with. So thank you very much indeed. Chairman, would you like to move on to the next agenda item?
Yes, I would. Thank you, Leader. Right, the next agenda item is apologies for absence. Do we have any apologies for absence?
Yeah, we have received apologies for absence from Councillor Andrews, Councillor Boylan, Councillor Ball, Councillor Bermitz, Councillor Curtis, Councillor Frecknell, Councillor Hollybon, Councillor Huggins, Councillor McAndrew, Councillor McMullen, Councillor Townsend, and Councillor Stevenson.
Thank you. I think that's it, isn't it? I don't think there's any more. The minutes of the last meeting, they were on the 18th of January. They're on pages 5 to 32, your agenda pack. Members, we have before us the minutes of the meeting. Are there any amendments to these minutes? No, that's good. Can I have a proposer, please?
Happy to propose, Chairman.
Thank you. Can I have a seconder, please?
I have to second, Mr. Chairman.
Thank you. We have a proposer and a seconder. So the minutes have been proposed and seconded. There are no amendments. So can I have a show of hands for all those who are in support of these minutes? Thank you. I think that's unanimous. Are there any against? Okay. Are there any against? No. Are there any abstentions? No. Okay, thank you. Right, the next item is declarations of interest. Are there any declarations of interest? Yes, Councillor Goldspink.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Yes, I declare non-pecuniary interest in agenda item, I think it's number 16, honorary alderman, because I do have the honour of already being an honorary alderman, so I will not take part in that discussion. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Goldspink. Councillor Snowden.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I make a prejudicial declaration of interest on agenda item 14. I work for Fitch Group, which is the parent company Fitch Ratings, which is mentioned in the report.
Thank you, Councillor Snowden. Councillor Williamson.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I do need to declare a pecuniary interest in item 18 of the motion. So I will need to leave the chamber when that is being debated. Thank you.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Williamson. Are there any more declarations of interest? No, okay. Next item is petitions. There are no petitions. Next item is public questions. And there's a public question from Alistair Cook, but I believe he is not here today, so I'm going to read the question. The question would normally be for Councillor Graham McAndrew, but he is absent tonight, so Councillor Kay is going to answer in his absence. So the question is from Alistair Cook: have the cumulative effects of the traffic and therefore pollution being generated by 4,000 plus houses, a new Audi on the Gates site, and 2 proposed logistics centres, St James and Wren, been assessed with regards to impact on the already unacceptable pollution levels at the Hockrell junction? Councillor Kay.
Yes, this is Councillor McAndrew's response. When developing the council's district plan in 2018, the cumulative impact of development on the allocated sites was investigated. This predicted no undue air quality pressures as a result of the plan, once factors such as anticipated traffic patterns, improving vehicle emission standards, and the likely uptake of alternatives to car use were taken into account. That said, applications for major development across the district and all development in the air quality management areas in Bishop, Stortford, Sawbridgeworth and Hertford must submit an air quality assessment, as planning policy expects the applicant to demonstrate how the proposal would have at least a neutral, if not a positive impact on local air quality. Redesigns and mitigations can be insisted upon as a condition of planning consent in line with both national guidance and the more stringent air quality guidance found in the Council's Sustainability Supplementary Planning document. I'm very pleased in the context of new development, and although there remain traffic pressures at the 4-way Hockrell Junction, smart traffic light phasing installed by Hertfordshire County Council, regular East Herts Council anti-idling campaigns, and lower emissions from more modern vehicles have together resulted in emissions dropping at the junction from 63 micrograms per cubic metre in 2017 to 48 in 2021. We will, of course, continue to monitor pollution at the junction and work the highways team at Hertfordshire County Council to identify any works, especially as pollution is still above the nationally set level of 40 micrograms per cubic metre. We're keen to ensure air quality gains during the pandemic are not reversed, and I'm hopeful, given the year-on-year reductions over the last decade, that pollution levels will continue to drop. Finally, I think 2 important developments should hasten the reduction in air pollution at Hockrell and indeed elsewhere in the district. First, from the 1st of April, East Herts will have the most stringent taxi emission standards in the county. And second, in February, our bid for DEFRA funding for active travel planning was approved. This will see £126,000 spent on working with schools, local businesses, and the town councils in the 3 AQMAs to support people make local journeys without their cars. The grant will also fund the installation of real-time air quality monitors in each AQMA to enable residents to take informed choices about whether to add to local pollution or not by varying their journeys and means of transport.
Thank you, Councillor Kay. There are no supplementary. Next item is members' questions. 4 questions have been submitted, and may I remind members that both the questioner and the responding executive member must ensure that the question and the reply is succinct, and the total time allowed for consideration of any question submitted shall not exceed 15 minutes. Given the fact that we now publish the full responses the day after this meeting, short verbal responses are to be encouraged, so we may keep to this time limit. I need to know that the first 2 questions are very similar topics. So what I'm going to do, I'm going to group the first 2 questions, and then Councillor George Cutting will answer the 2 together. So first of all, I'd like to invite Councillor Rishi Fernando to ask his question, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. As mentioned, the question is for Councillor George Cutting. With the introduction of voter ID being required in elections for the first time this May, I would like to ask the Executive Member for Corporate Services what steps East Herts has and is taking to make all residents, and especially those groups most affected, i.e. young people, older people, and people with disabilities, aware of this new requirement. And would the Executive Member be able to give me specifics on how many applications there have been so far locally for the new voter authority certificate?
Thank you. Can I invite Councillor Ben Crystal to ask his question, please?
Sorry for the repetition. What work is East Herts doing with the groups most affected by the introduction of voter ID, young people, older people, and people with disabilities, to raise awareness of this new requirement? And how many applications so far have there been locally for the new voter authority certificate for people who don't have an approved photo ID?
Thank you, Councillor Crystal. Councillor George Cutting, can you please answer both questions? Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you both, Councillor Fernando and Councillor Crystal, for your questions. East Herts Council will be running a comprehensive local communications campaign to promote awareness of the voter ID requirements prior to the May elections. This will make use of a variety of channels, including online and social media, network, local press, parish newsletters and posters in community venues, and will complement the Electoral Commission's national television, poster and press campaign. In this regard, the Electoral Services team are working closely with communications colleagues to identify the priority groups for East Herts and how best to engage with each of these, and with the Council's Healthy Lifestyles Programme Officer to make contact with community groups that the Council is already aware of. All electors who are registered to vote at a polling station will receive full information regarding the voter ID requirements on their poll cards. However, in addition to this, the Council is sending in the next week a colour postcard to all 64,000 residential addresses in the district, highlighting the change, publicising the availability of the free voter authority certificate for any elector who does not have any of the accepted forms of photo ID, and providing a web link and telephone helpline number for further information. The Voter Authority Certificate application portal, launched on Monday the 16th of January this year, has, at today's date, 1st of March, East Herts Council have received 48 applications for these certificates. Finally, recruitment of staff to work in the polling stations on the 4th of May this year is now almost complete, with only a few polling clerk positions still to be filled. Additional staff have been allocated to some polling stations to ensure that the new ID procedures can be carried out efficiently, and all polling station staff will receive full training, including on the new voter ID requirements. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cutting. Councillor Fernando, do you have a supplementary question?
No supplementary. Thank you for the response.
Councillor Crystal, do you have a supplementary question?
No, thank you very much.
Thank you. So we go straight to question 3. Can I invite Councillor Ben Crystal to ask his question, please?
Thanks, Chair. Please can councillors be updated on alterations made to the plans for Hertford Leisure Centre and Hertford Theatre since DMC approval? In particular, can you provide information on any changes that will impact the public realm in terms of sustainability and services, which the buildings provide to the public?
Thank you, Councillor Crystal. I believe that Councillor Jane Goodeve will respond.
Thank you, Chairman, and thank you, Councillor Crystal, for the advance notice of the question. In respect to Hartham Leisure Centre, various applications to discharge conditions attached to the permission have been made. Full details of materials can be seen on the Council's online planning database, but the palette, in summary, was a steel standing seam roof and some areas of living roof with glazing and cement reinforced cladding to the side elevations. A further application has recently been submitted proposing change to the cladding material due to material availability. This change is under consideration by officers. In respect to Hertford Theatre, various applications to discharge conditions attached to the permission have also since been made. application reference, I won't read the number, approved details of some materials, but further submission is required in relation to other materials. Full details of materials can be seen on the council's planning database. A subsequent application was submitted to make non-material amendments to vehicular access and landscaping, which would have increased planting, removed trees, reduced on-street parking on the pavement and altered sidewalk. This was refused as the changes proposed were considered to be too extensive to be acceptable as a non-material amendment. This decision does not give judgment as to their acceptability, but rather that a different type of application will need to be submitted.
Thank you. Councillor Crystal, do you have a supplementary?
No, that's fine. Thank you.
Lovely, thank you. Fourth question, can I invite Councillor Chris Wilson to ask his question, please?
Thank you, Chair. This is a question for Councillor Goodith. As part of a recent major planning application, a traffic report was submitted with reference to Bishop Stortford. Essentially, it argued that the development would not have a severe impact on the levels of traffic in the town, as by the time the development was built, the traffic would be at such a high level that any additional congestion would make no significant difference. Would you agree that such a report needs to be looked at very seriously, and that if it is correct, it puts into doubt whether the district plan is now fit for purpose? Do you also agree that the district plan intended for there to be mitigation in place to stop air pollution in Hockrell increasing further as a result of nearby major developments, and that it is now clear that this mitigation has not worked and is not working? Do you therefore agree that we must seriously consider placing a hold on all developments in Bishop Stortford until we can be sure that they are not damaging the town centre's viability as a place for business and residents' ability to travel in the town, as well as threatening their health and well-being due to the unacceptable levels of air pollution in Hockrell and beyond?
Thank you, Councillor Wilson.
Sorry,
Councillor
Chairman, can I
Goodith.
just have a point of order. I thought there was only supposed to be one question, as opposed to, I don't know, lost count on this one. In this one, is it? Can I ask for advice? Is it correct that Councillor Wilson can ask 4 or 5 questions in the same paragraph, or should Councillor Goodeve just answer the first one?
Go to James Ellis.
Members are allowed to ask one question. However, if the questions are all related to the same topic, then I think that could be deemed to be one question. There is a restriction on members asking more than one question at council. However, so I would defer to yourself, Chairman, whether the question as asked is one question or whether it's multiple questions put together.
Councillor Goodeve, are you happy to answer all 5 questions?
I'm happy to answer all of the questions, but
Succinctly.
But perhaps in the future, members could be encouraged to only submit one question.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Goodeve.
Thank you. And thank you for the advance notice of the question. You would have already have heard Councillor McAndrew's response to Alistair Cook, and my response today covers similar points. The impact of new development on local air quality is an important planning consideration. When developing the council's district plan in 2018, the cumulative impact of building on the sites allocated for development in Bishop Stortford and elsewhere were fully investigated. This work found that the scale of new development envisaged was not deemed to put undue air quality pressures on the town, having taken account of factors including predicted travel patterns, the improving emission standards of vehicles, and likely uptake of alternatives to the car use. The district plan continues to provide a strong framework for addressing air pollution. In the planning application process, policy EQ4 expects development to minimise air pollution and incorporate measures in the design, construction and operation of all developments to address any negative impact on air quality. Councillor McAndrew has already said, redesigns and mitigations can be insisted upon as a condition of planning consent, in line with both national guidance and the air quality guidance found in the Council's Sustainability Supplementary Planning document. An important objective of adopting the SPD in 2021 was to provide further technical guidance for developers on how to implement district plan requirements to incorporate appropriate air quality design and mitigation measures. Major development across the district and all development in the AQMAs must submit an air quality assessment as part of the planning application process to demonstrate how proposed developments will have a neutral or positive impact on local air quality. Therefore, the district plan and its supporting documents do remain fit for purpose. Whilst there remain traffic pressures at the four-way Hockerall junction, and as set out by Councillor McAndrew, smart traffic light phasing installed by Hertfordshire County Council, regular East Herts Council anti-idling campaigns, and lower emissions from more modern vehicles have together resulted in emissions dropping at Hockerall Junction from 63 micrograms per cubic metre in 2017 to 48 in 2021. Given the policy framework that I have outlined and the progress that is already being made towards reducing emissions at Hockerall Junction, there is no justification to put on hold all developments in Bishop Stortford.
Thank you, Councillor Goodeve. Councillor Wilson, do you have a supplementary?
Yes, please. But first of all, I'd just like to say in regards to whether that question was valid, I think it'd be useful if once we submit a question that the officers come back to us if they feel that it isn't, so we can then adjust that question before the meeting rather than talking it over here. Thank you. I accept that when the district plan was prepared, there was mitigation supposed to happen, and there were studies at that point. But my question really is whether that study is still valid as far as you're concerned, that was made before the district plan was made, and what date that was for the transport assessment that we have. After all, this study that I mentioned postdates that. And also, do you have any data on the change of travel habits that people have in Bishop Stortford? My perception is certainly that has not occurred, and people are still using the car as much as they ever did before.
Councillor Goodeve.
I haven't seen any more recent travel data, but as you'll probably be aware, the district plan is up for its 5-year review later this year. So that will be an opportunity for everything to be looked at in a holistic way.
Thank you. We're going to move on to the item number 9, which is the executive report from the 14th of February. This report relates to the meeting of the executive on the 14th of February. May I invite the leader to present her report, please?
Thank you very much indeed. There are a number of items in the executive report that do need to be considered and approved by council. The first one is the discretionary council tax support top up, and this is being proposed by Councillor Jeff Williamson. Jeff?
Thank you, Leader, and thank you, Chairman. Back in December, the government announced a scheme providing additional funding for local authorities to provide a top-up to households already in receipt of council tax support, and this is to run during the financial year starting this April. There are two parts of the scheme. There's the mandatory scheme whereby all households already receiving council tax support will receive a further £25 reduction in their bills or see their bills reduced to zero if their liability is already less than 25%. The government then requires local authorities to determine how to treat households that become eligible for council tax support during the year, and therefore this part of the scheme is to be arranged at our discretion. We're therefore recommending that we use the residual funds from our funding allocation after the mandatory top-up support has been provided to give the same level of top-up to any additional households that may become eligible for council tax support after the 1st of April, until such point as that funding is exhausted. We will keep the situation under review, and if it looks as though we will not get through all the funding by March next year, we will then use any balance on any applications for council tax hardship. So, Chairman, to this end, there are two recommendations, A and B, on page 37, which I'm pleased to move. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. Can we have a seconder, please?
I'm happy to second it, Chairman.
Thank you. That wasn't the name I had on my list, but thank you, Councillor Simons. So we have a proposer and a seconder. Are there any questions or comments on this item? Councillor Goldspink.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Liberal Democrat Group is very happy to support both A and B of this recommendation. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Simons.
Thank you, Chairman. I was just going to make a comment about the benefits and how well it is put round to our most vulnerable clients, our most vulnerable residents. And I'd like to thank Sue Taryn and her team for all the hard work they do in making sure that our most vulnerable residents are looked after. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Simons. Are there any more comments on this item before we go to a vote? Thank you. There are two recommendations, A and B. They're on page 37. I'd like to take the two jointly. Can I have all those in favour? Thank you. All those against? And any abstaining? No, that's unanimous, I think. Thank you very much. That is carried.
Thank you. The next item requiring our consideration is the Asset Management Plan 2023 to 2028. Councillor Williamson.
Thank you, Leader. The council owns a wide range of property assets used in the delivery of our services. We manage these assets to ensure they remain fit for purpose and continue to meet our changing needs. We also periodically review our entire asset base to make sure we only keep assets that assist with delivering our corporate priorities. This plan covers the need to undertake a fresh review of these assets and how this will be undertaken. So to this end, there is the one recommendation on page 37, which I'm pleased to move, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Holly Drake, thank you.
Happy to second this, Chairman.
Thank you. Do we have any comments on this item? Councillor Goldspink.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Liberal Democrat Group is happy to support this with one comment about car parks. It does seem to me that it is eminently sensible and responsible for the council to review its assets from time to time and make sure that they are fulfilling all the needs and purposes of the council and of the residents. Would like to make a comment about page 70. This is in section 5.3, and this is about car parking provision in Bishop Stortford. And there's one little sentence there that it might be possible to, I want to see an opportunity to free up surface car parking sites for potential redevelopment. Well, as a resident of Bishop Stortford, I feel rather worried about that, and I would really not like to see the surface car parks being given up. But apart from that, yes, I and the group, we are happy to support this recommendation.
Thank you, Councillor Goldspink. Councillor Crystal.
Thanks, Chair. I've got some questions, if that's okay. They're quite simple, I think quite short. Can I just run through them if that's all right? So I think the setting up of the assets member reference group sounds really positive. Will there be an opportunity for members on both sides to be on that? Is that clear? Shall I ask each question and then let you answer? Is that? Yeah.
To be honest, Councillor Crystal, we haven't yet come up with the formulations for how that group will be comprised.
Thank you. The property services team, so it sounds like there's going to be a lot of work on them. Do they have sufficient resources? Do they need more resources to expand to handle these surveys? Because it does look like there's a lot of work.
I'm led to believe that it can all be handled within the existing resources within the properties team.
Two last questions. So the CAG will regularly review the disposal list, and there's the asset member reference group. How do you envisage them working together? Is that been planned yet?
Yes, the CAG will come up with its recommendations, which will then be reviewed by the member group before any final decision is or recommendation is taken.
Last question. Wallfields car park. In the report it says it's been available for business parking at weekends, and I just wanted to find out how long that's been available for and how it's been advertised. Thanks.
I'm sorry, Chairman, I don't have that information at my fingertips, but we can try and find out and provide an answer later, or maybe Jan would.
Councillor
Thank you.
Goodeve.
I have some information. Certainly the market stall holders were encouraged to park their vans there to save clogging up Gascoigne Way. Other than that, I'm not entirely sure, but I think it's been predominantly on Saturdays.
Thank you. Councillor Snowden, please.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. There's an awful lot of good work gone into this, and I'd like to thank the executive member for that, and also for the work that our officers do in making sure a lot of very important community assets are actually well maintained too. I'd just like an assurance from the executive member that some of these community assets, if they're best held or operated by another tier of government, that will be considered.
Yes, if that's in overall interest of this council, that would certainly be considered.
Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any other questions? No, okay. This is the second item in the executive report. There's one recommendation. This recommendation A is detailed on pages 36 and 37 of your agenda pack. Please can I have a show of hands for all those who are in favour? Thank you. All those against? And all those abstaining? Thank you. That once again, that's unanimous. Thank you.
Those are all the items that need consideration by this council. All the other items in the executive report are resolved items.
Thank you. We're going to move on to item 10 now, which is the budget 2023-2024 and the medium-term financial plan 2023. I just want to note that in reference to recommendation C, please note that a revised appendix C, fees and charges, has been published in a supplementary agenda, which you should all have on pages 3 to 23. These are the fees and charges that need to be approved, not the appendix C shown in the main agenda. Thank you. So can I invite the Executive Member for Financial Sustainability, Councillor Jeff Williamson, to present this report.
Okay, thank you very much indeed, Chairman. This administration has a proud record of producing budgets that show sound financial management and that protect frontline services, and our budget for this coming year is no exception. Over the years, we have achieved this despite a whole range of adverse circumstances, reduced central funding whilst demands on our services have been increasing. Then we had COVID to deal with. And members may recall that on this day last year, when I presented the budget, we were all wearing blue and yellow to show our support for Ukraine, who had been invaded by Russia less than 1 week before. The economic impacts of this conflict we all know, with spiralling energy and fuel prices, leading to inflation and interest rates levels not seen for a generation. We have therefore had to cope with the impacts of the employer's pay offer to the unions and higher than expected contract inflation, which between them have created an £840,000 in-year pressure, and which will have a compound effect over the life of the medium-term financial plan. So this year, as in every year, we look at our forthcoming budget. We do so against an increasingly challenging background, with diminishing funding from government and many uncertainties about future funding. Our ambitions to become an entrepreneurial council, whereby we could develop initiatives to provide our own financial resources, are now long gone, following the changes to the rules on borrowing, though at least we are able to benefit from the income generated by the investments we were able to make. One of the ways we can increase our revenue is, of course, through council tax. In the times we could afford to do so, this council successively either froze, reduced, or introduced only limited increases on that element of council tax that we levy on our residents. However, when it became clear that central government expected local authorities to do all necessary to raise the funds that we need, we accepted that we should increase council tax by the maximum that we are allowed without a referendum, which for us stood at £5 per year on a Band D property. However, in his autumn statement, the Chancellor gave local authorities more flexibility and that we can now apply the higher of £5 or 3% in round terms. Of these two values, 3% is now the higher, which revises our maximum to an overall increase of £5.50, which is an equivalent of 11p per week. To increase council tax is never an easy choice, but this will bring in an extra £350,000 each year to support delivery of our services. I would remind members that district councils have far less ability to raise funds through council tax than other tier authorities and preceptors, and to give this some perspective, our proposed increase represents only 0.3% of a typical total council tax bill. Moving now to our schedule of fees and charges, we are now working to the policy we agreed in December 2021, which came through our transformation programme work. That policy provides a framework for how the council should set charges more clearly and consistently. And one of the key strands of the policy is that where we provide a discretionary service, the charge should be set to ensure the council's costs are recovered fully from the users wherever possible and not be left to be subsidised by council taxpayers. We have therefore moved away from our practice of a standard overall percentage uplift of past years, and all fees and charges from 2023 have been calculated in line with the policy and will therefore, in the main, recover the full cost of provision. However, the council tax increase and the fees and charges review are not on their own enough to close the gap in our budget that was identified when we started the process, which stood at 822,000. Therefore, we have been working with officers to examine where these savings can be derived. To that end, I can report that sufficient operational savings have been found through our transformation programme, which can be implemented without any effect on frontline services. Therefore, tonight, we are putting forward a balanced budget for next year. Our medium-term financial plan is shown in Appendix A, and this shows our total net expenditure for the year is 12.113 million, which is almost £600,000 of growth compared to this current year. And on top of this, we have generated further savings, which will contribute to the targets within future years of our MTFP. However, in contrast, there is the need for substantial savings in the future, totaling nearly 6.7 million, needing to be saved across the period 2024 to 2028. And this is after temporary use of our reserves to take off some of the pressure. This is in part due to the £1 million allowed for weekly food collections, plus £1 million to cover potential increases in the waste budget. Therefore, the Council's transformation programme, which is designed to identify efficiencies across our ways of working, remains a vital piece of work, covering areas such as resourcing, procurement, income streams, and our operational needs. This is a major exercise, but it is enabling us to ensure that our resources are focused on our priorities. In conjunction with this, the leadership team has already embarked on a reconciling resources, policy and performance exercise, again designed to ensure resources are aligned with the Council's corporate priorities going forward. Every year, we have faced a challenge to find a way of funding our services, but each year this is a challenge we have met. Going forward, there is still a considerable hill to climb, but we can be confident that we will find a way, as we always have done. Turning now to our capital programme, and in particular our major projects. Grange Paddocks and Northgate End are complete. Harton Leisure Centre and Hertford Theatre are well underway, and we are progressing with our plans for our main Old River Lane project. The total amount of capital investment we'll be making across the district next year is 18.4 million, of which these main projects represent 14.9 million. Due to our investment on this scale, we have been keeping a very watchful eye over our use of cash funds and our need to borrow. And this is covered by our capital strategy and treasury management and investment strategies, which are items that appear later on tonight's agenda. To remind you, we are now required to allow for both interest payments and the minimum revenue provision, which covers the repayment of our capital borrowing within our MTFP. By pausing our lower priority capital projects and having moved them into our approved but not committed category, we do not need to allow for the financing of these items within the MTFP. Capital items can be brought back into the approved category at any time, provided we have the means of financing them. There are other ways we will continue to invest in the needs of our residents and communities. Members will be aware that we were successful in obtaining £2.2 million of funding through the UK Share Prosperity Fund and Rural Prosperity Fund, which we will be investing in our district over this and the next 2 years. In addition, we are working with Community Alliance, who will leverage in funding for community groups from other external grant sources. We also now have our social value policy in place and several social value priorities that tenderers for our contracts can choose to demonstrate are aimed at the voluntary community and social enterprise sector. Therefore, we now have a variety of means of supporting our community groups without resorting to our own resources. Nonetheless, we have still included £40,000 in the budget for our community grants programme 23-24. Furthermore, we will continue to provide substantial funding to the Citizens Advice Service, and next year this will amount to £129,000. On top of this is the £18,000 we pay to CAB every year, then to provide specific housing related debt advice, which is paid for from the National Homelessness Prevention Grant. We recognise the very important service the CAB provides to East Herts residents, and in addition to the direct funding we give, we have been and will continue to make efforts to find other external funding sources for the service. At this stage, Chairman, if I may, I would just like to make my customary opportunity to thank the leadership team, Stephen Leonard in particular, and all our officers in finance, and those across all our services who have played their part as usual over the last year in formulating our business and financial plans for next year and beyond. We know that producing these plans continues to be extremely testing, and it's to all our officers that we should give thanks for us having such solid and robust plans going forward. As a council, our aim is to deliver on our corporate priorities and to invest in our services and in our communities at the levels we would wish. The last 4 years have seen some real successes we can be proud of. From our capital programme, we have delivered our new leisure centre at Grange Paddocks, now development at Northgate End as part of our Old River Lane scheme, and the Harsham Leisure Centre and the Hertford Theatre are on their way. For our residents, on top of all our regular services and support we provide, we have paid out over £500,000 from the £150 council tax support top-up scheme, paid out £5.9 million to 44,000 homes under the energy rebate scheme. We have just begun the programme of funding to support households who do not contract directly with an energy supplier. And we're about to start on the council tax support £25 top-up scheme with an estimated 5,000 homes that will benefit in East Herts, plus the discretionary element which we agreed a few minutes ago. For our businesses, we have paid out almost £60 million in COVID-related grants since April 2020 and helped 35 local businesses expand or set up shop through our new premises grant scheme. For our communities, we have launched the East Herts Lottery to help charities and local voluntary organisations, which was an outcome of the financial sustainability work that this administration launched 4 years ago. So to conclude, as I mentioned at the outset, under this administration, this council has always acted prudently with its finances, and as a result, we find ourselves in a much better place than many other authorities around the country. So again, our objective has been to produce a budget for the coming year, which allows us to maintain levels of service, but within our means. So finally, despite there being so many factors working against us, we have nonetheless succeeded in bringing together a budget for next year, which still protects frontline services, invests for the future, and which overall provides the best deal for the residents and communities across our district, and I commend it to council for approval. So, Chairman, my presentation has given the background to the work which has led to the 4 recommendations that cover our formal approval of the various aspects of the budget. These are on page 100 of the agenda pack. Chairman, I beg to move his recommendations. Thank you.
Thank you, councillor Williamson. Can I have a seconder for that proposal, please? Yes, councillor Buckmaster.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd like to second and reserve my right to speak.
Thank you. Can we have any comments or questions on that motion, please? Councillor Goldspink.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to propose an amendment to this budget. And when I have a seconder, I will read what the amendment is.
Okay.
And then I would like to speak on it, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Can we have a seconder for that amendment, please? Councillor Chris Wilson.
Yeah, I second this motion and reserve my right to speak. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you want me to read out the amendment, or do you want to read the amendment? Yeah, okay.
I'm happy for you to read it, Mr.
Okay.
Chairman.
The Liberal Democrat Group Budget Amendment says this council decides to pause the proposed capital expenditure on the development of the Old River Lane site in Bishop Stortford by moving this item to the approved but not yet committed category. This would reduce the council's revenue expenditure for the medium-term financial plan period and would allow time for full consultation with residents and all interested parties. It would not mean cancelling the project. That the budget be amended as follows: Appendix A, medium-term financial plan being replaced with the attached new Appendix A with amended figures shown highlighted in yellow, and Appendix B, capital programme being replaced with the attached new Appendix B with amended figures shown highlighted in yellow. I hope all members have got those extra appendices. Can we have a discussion on the amendment, please? Councillor Redfern, did you want to say anything on the amendment? Okay, thank you. Are there any more comments on the amendment? Councillor Goldspink.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd like to speak in support of the amendment. We all know that the council's finances are very stretched at the moment, and in spite of the 4.6 million of savings which have been made this year, another 5 million at least will soon be necessary in savings. There are several ways of reducing costs, and one way, which indeed is mentioned somewhere in our papers tonight, is to put a pause on non-essential spend. And this is what our budget amendment proposes in relation to the proposed development at the Old River Lane site in Bishop Stortford. We believe that it would be most unwise to proceed with the ORL proposals at the moment because there are serious flaws in the plans and they do not have the wholehearted support of the people of Bishop Stortford. We think that it would be foolish and possibly even irresponsible to commit the council and the taxpayers to 30 years of repayment of the loan for a scheme which nobody wants, and with elements within it which are even against some of our district plan, our local plan policies. And this is a scheme which people probably would not support or patronize, and so it would not produce much income for the council, even if it were to be built. So it could be a grave mistake to proceed at the moment. However, the people of Bishop Stortford do want to see something on this site. They would like an excellent scheme. And they view this as a fantastic opportunity now to do something really good for the town. So if we could just pause the scheme for a short while and do a thorough, full consultation with all the residents, then not only would we save on the council's revenue expenditure, as demonstrated in the appendixes A and B of the financial plan, we would not only save in the future, but we would also achieve a financially secure and a very attractive development. So I do commend this amendment to the council.
Thank you, Councillor Goldspink. Councillor Wilson, do you want to speak as seconder?
Yes, thank you, Chair. I was listening to Councillor Buckmaster earlier talking about Grange Paddocks and the success that it has been, and he's quite right. But you could predict that because the people of Bishop Stortford that I spoke to, and in general, what I found was that they were very much in support of it before it happened. So of course it has been a success. There are warning signs here that, admittedly, unlike Councillor Ruffles, only been here for 4 years, but the strength of feeling on the Old River Lane in Bishop Stortford is bigger than anything else I've seen in these 4 years. So there are people that don't want what we're offering at the moment. So if we then commit 30 years, as Councillor Goldspink said, of potential finances to that, we are being irresponsible in my view. So there are real warning signs that what we have here is something that won't work. So we need to pause this and revisit with full cooperation of all of the residents and engage with them again before going ahead. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Redfern.
I wholeheartedly support what Councillor Goldspink and Councillor Wilson have said. I do know people who live in Bishop Stortford and they are very, very unhappy about this scheme. They do not feel that they have been consulted properly. They do not feel that they have been listened to. They feel that this is being imposed upon them, and this cannot be right. I do not understand why, as a council, we're committing ourselves to this enormously expensive project when the people who are living with it do not want it. I mean, I can't speak for all of them, obviously, but we could get a better idea if there were proper consultations. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Williamson, did you want to say anything?
Yes, thank you, Chairman. I just wanted to refer to the process of the budget. We started out last September preparing the budget for next year and the MTFP. It's been through audit and governance twice. It's been through the executive 3 times, ready for this evening. We've only had moments to look at the amended proposals, but from what I can see, the budget for 23-24 is no different to what we already had. So in terms of the 23-24 budget, I don't see there's any impact. Thank you.
Thank you. I'd like to go to a vote. This is the vote for the amendment to this motion. So can I have all those in favour of the... What was it? Oh, sorry, this has got to be a recorded vote. So this is for the amendment. Yeah. So for the amendment, we need to record the vote. Katie. Yeah, so Katie Morgan will call out all the names and you say whether you're for or against the amendment. This is for the amendment.
Okay, Councillor Alder. Councillor Beckett. Councillor Bell. Councillor Bolton. Councillor Brady.
For the amendment.
Councillor Eric Buckmaster. Councillor Ruth Buckmaster. Councillor Crofton. Councillor Crystal. Councillor Cutting. Councillor Deering. Councillor Devonshire. Councillor Drake. Councillor Dumont. Councillor Fernando. Councillor Goldspink. Councillor Goodeve. Councillor Hazy.
Against.
Councillor Jones. Councillor Kay. Councillor Kemp. Councillor Newton. Councillor Page.
Against.
Councillor Pope. Councillor Ranger. Councillor Redfern.
For.
Councillor Reid. Councillor Ruffles. Councillor Rutland Barsby. Councillor Snowden. Councillor Steve. Oh, she's not here. Councillor Stowe. Councillor Simons. Councillor Ward Booth. Councillor Williamson.
Against.
Councillor Wiley. And that's 7 votes for the amendment. Oh, I'm so sorry. Councillor Wilson.
For. Thank you.
Apologies, that's 8 votes for, 27 against and 1 abstention. That motion lost.
Thank you. That means that that amendment falls and we return to the original motion. Can I, James Ellis wants to say something.
Yeah, I just wanted to make it clear. I did hear some murmurings around the room about who's asked for a recorded vote. Because this is a recorded vote on the budget or on an amendment or substantive motion around the budget, it is required under the Local Authority Standing Orders England Amendment Regulation 2014. So it's required by statute rather than it being requested by any particular members or group of members. So that's just for clarity for everyone wondering why there was a recorded vote on that.
Okay, so that amendment has fallen. So we're going back to the original motion. Are there any members who have any questions or comments on the original motion, please? Councillor Redfern.
Yes, I may have made a mistake here, so I'm sure you'll put me right if I have. But there is on page 110, there is a little thing, it says for member decision, increase access to external grants to replace EHC's funds through a payment per results agreement with CVS. As a result, external funding replaces council funding, so reducing community grants from 94,000 to 40,000. And then it goes, reduce general grants to Citizens Advice and CVS and use more payment by result service level agreements. Now, are we going to make a decision on that, or are we just going to decide on the whole thing?
Councillor Williamson, can you clarify?
Yes, certainly. Those two items are part of the budget package that we presented. I did talk about the Citizens Advice Service funding we provide, and also our grants program, which is pretty much been taken over by what we can get from external funding sources, including what we can use through the UK Shared Prosperity Fund.
So this will be all part of that vote. Yeah, thank you. Councillor Deering.
Yes, thank you very much, Chairman. I just wanted to say that I think this is an excellent budget. Some of you know I do a similar job elsewhere. It's very hard, and I'm full of praise for the work, Jeff, you've done here. It's just excellent. Thank you very much indeed. You absolutely get my support on this budget. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Deering. Sorry, Councillor Redfern, you can't have another question. You only can have one. Thank you. Councillor Crofton.
Thank you. Speaking about our budget, that I'd like to thank the Liberal Democrats for presenting their budget at 5 to 7 tonight. So we've got plenty of time to consider it and discuss it. So that is a failing that should be corrected in future. But Chairman, I think there's several important scrutinies, and in my opinion, none are more important than the Audit and Governance Committee, which helps to consider all the facts behind these budgets. And it's on that basis that on this side of the chamber, we appreciate its importance. And that's why it's so galling to hear tonight opposition members challenging the council's business when they don't attend the meeting. They don't attend the Audit and Governance Committee. You can. And the only person that does attend is Sophie Bell, and she's attended only three out of those that are possible. And of course, no substitute was offered in her place. So I just think it's important to note here that no opposition members attend the committee. And I think, I hope in this chamber, we and those watching on the webcast will appreciate that the Conservative members in this council take our value. It's important that we understand the processes and we attend the meetings. So I commend this budget. It's well considered, and it holds up well.
Thank you, Councillor Crofton. I believe Councillor Bell wants to make a reply to that.
Yeah, thanks for that, Chairman. I would just like to clarify the Audit and Governance Committee meeting that I missed was because I was diagnosed with COVID, and I thought it'd be quite irresponsible of me to attend a committee meeting and risk passing that on to other members. So I just thought I'd clarify that.
Thank you. Are there any other comments or questions on this budget? No, okay, because we're Councillor Buckmaster. Oh yes, sorry, I secondly. It was a long time ago, I forgot.
That long ago, Chair.
Yeah, Councillor Buckmaster.
I'm sure we've had longer budget debates. I think Councillor Williamson put this very well. I just wanted to add a couple more points. So as we've heard earlier, this administration has a lot to be proud of through being progressive, and thoughtfully focusing on our communities. It doesn't happen overnight, but several years of work and engagement with stakeholders and community groups. And though there have been many hurdles and challenges to overcome, we provide excellent value for money, and we continue to do so for what is approximately around 9% share of the council tax. So just a reminder to people as to what this authority delivers. We are the council tax collection authority. We pay out benefits, also responsible for waste collection, parks and open spaces, leisure centres, theatre, cultural services, environmental health, social prescribing, planning, parking and on-street and off-street enforcement, licensing, housing options, homelessness support, community engagement, business support and more. And if approved, the Band D portion for East Herts Council is just around £189 a year. So an awful lot is delivered for that. That's all I want to say. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Buckmaster. We're going to go to the vote now. There are 4 recommendations, A to D, which are on page 100 of the agenda pack. We're going to take them all as one, and this is, as you know, a recorded vote. Thank you.
Councillor Alder, Councillor Beckett, Councillor Bell, Councillor Bolton.
4.
Councillor Brady, Councillor Eric Buckmaster, Councillor Ruth Buckmaster, Councillor Crofton, Councillor Crystal, Councillor Cutting, Councillor Deering, Councillor Devonshire,
Because I'm the chair, abstain.
Councillor Drake, Councillor Dumont, Councillor Fernando, Councillor Goldspink, Councillor Goodeve, Councillor Hazy, Councillor Jones, Councillor Kay, Councillor Kemp, Councillor Newton, Councillor Page,
4.
Councillor Pope, Councillor Ranger, Councillor Redfern, Councillor Reid, Councillor Ruffles, Councillor Rutland Barsby, Councillor Snowden, Councillor Stowe, Councillor Simons, Councillor Ward-Booth, Councillor Williamson,
4.
Councillor Wilson, Councillor Wiley. Okay, that's 27 for, 5 against and 4 abstentions.
Thank you. That is carried. The next item is item 11, which is a council tax setting report. And I invite the Executive Member for Financial Stability, Sustainability, Councillor Jeff Williamson, to present this report, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Well, having just now agreed our council tax rates for next year, this paper describes how our council tax charges are brought together with the other preceptors, County Council, Towns and Parish Councils and Police and Crime Commissioner. It's the final calculations of household bills. Essentially, it's a technical piece of work. There's no debate or be had or decisions to be made as such, but regulations do require the council to approve this formally. Therefore, I would therefore ask we move the 3 recommendations on page 23 of the supplement. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. Can I have a seconder, please, for that proposal? Councillor Kay.
Yes, happy to second.
Thank you. Does any member wish to comment or ask a question? Councillor Goldspink.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Liberal Democrat Group is happy to support this recommendation.
Thank you. Any more comments or questions on this motion? Thank you. So members, there are 3 recommendations, A to C, on page 23 of the supplementary agenda pack. And once again, this requires a recorded vote.
Councillor Alder, Councillor Beckett,
4.
Councillor Bell, Councillor Bolton,
4.
Councillor Brady, Councillor Eric Buckmaster, Councillor Ruth Buckmaster, Councillor Crofton, Councillor Crystal, Councillor Cutting, Councillor Deering, Councillor Devonshire.
As chair, I abstain again.
Councillor Drake, Councillor Dumont, Councillor Fernando, Councillor Goldspink, Councillor Goodeve, Councillor Hazy, Councillor Jones, Councillor Kay, Councillor Kemp, Councillor Newton, Councillor Page,
4.
Councillor Pope, Councillor Ranger, Councillor Redfern, Councillor Reid, Councillor Ruffles, Councillor Rutland Barsby, Councillor Snowden, Councillor Stowe, Councillor Simons, Councillor Ward Booth, Councillor Williamson,
4.
Councillor Wilson, Councillor Wiley. That's 35 for 0 against and 1 abstention.
Thank you. Once again, that is carried. Next agenda item is 12, Capital Strategy and Minimum Revenue Provision Policy 2023-2024. And once again, I'm going to go to the Executive Member for Financial Sustainability, Councillor Jeff Williamson, please.
Thank you, Chairman. Okay, the need for the Council to produce an annual capital strategy was introduced following strengthening of government and SIPA guidance. And this is the 5th iteration, and it does provide a valuable document, and it helps us direct us as we implement our programmes and priorities. With the changes in the economic climate that we've experienced this year, particularly higher interest rates, that we need to ensure that our capital programme remains affordable. To this end, we are moving our lower priority capital spending into our approved but not committed category, as we discussed earlier, which effectively puts a pause on delivery of these items until such time as the finance becomes available. We have one recommendation on page 154, please, Chairman, which I'm happy to approve in order to approve the capital strategy and MRP policy. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. Can I have a seconder for that proposal, please? Yes, Councillor Bob Deering.
Very, very happy to second and reserve my right. Thank you.
Thank you. Has been proposed and seconded. Does any member wish to comment or ask a question? Councillor Goldspink.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Liberal Democrat Group is happy to support this. I'd just like to make a little comment about the back page of the big document, Capital Strategy Minimum Provision. On the back, it talks, it scores different projects, and the Arts Centre for Old River Lane, one comment, it says sustainability at the heart of everything we do. Well, I would query that, because part of the present proposals are to demolish 3 perfectly good residential homes and 2 big buildings which are important in the community. And then the other tick which is given is enabling our communities, and part of that is meant to be full consultation with people, and I would question whether that has happened. So it's a bit ironic, but for the rest of it, yes, I'm happy to support. Thank you.
Thank you. That is noted. Are there any other questions or comments from any members? No? Okay. So there is one recommendation, recommendation A. This is on page 154 of your agenda pack. Members, could you please raise your hands to indicate whether you are in favour of this motion? Thank you. Any against? And any abstain? No, that's unanimous. Thank you. That is carried. Next agenda item is agenda item 13, the Treasury Management and Annual Investment Strategy 2023-2024. And once again, you've guessed it, I'm going to invite the Executive Member for Financial Sustainability, Councillor Jeff Williamson, to present this report.
Thank you, Chairman. Okay, like the capital strategy, our Treasury Management Strategy guides us as we deliver on our programmes, and which gives us the basis on which to manage our funds. The Council is required to provide 3 Treasury reports each year, of which is the first being the forward-looking report for the next financial year. The strategy and associated prudential indicators are given as appendices A and B respectively. And as with the capital strategy, this was looked at by Audit and Governance last month, and the committee approved that we should recommend this, it should be recommended to Council. We have one recommendation on page 215 to approve the strategy document at Appendix A and the prudential indicators at Appendix B, which I'm pleased to move. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. Can I have a seconder for that proposal, please? Councillor Mark Pope.
I'm very happy to second that, Chairman. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Pope. Does any member wish to comment or ask a question? Councillor Goldspink.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to say that the Liberal Democrat Group is happy to support this.
Thank you. Any other comments or questions? No? Okay. So we are going to go to the vote on the recommendation, which is on page 215 of your agenda pack. There's only one Recommendation A. Members, please could you raise your hands to indicate whether you are in favour of this motion? Thank you. Are there any against? And any abstentions? No, thank you. Once again, that is unanimous. The next agenda item is number 14. It's the Pay Policy Statement 2023-2024. And I'm going to invite the Executive Member for Corporate Services, Councillor George Cutting, to present this report, please.
Thank you, Chairman. It is a statutory requirement that all councils produce and publish an annual pay policy that has been approved by full council. This policy lays out East Herts District Council's agreed approach to the remuneration of chief officers, its lowest paid employees, and the relationship between the two. For the purposes of this policy, remuneration covers basic salary, pension, and any allowances arising from employment. Other areas related to pay include the ability to apply a carefully researched market forces supplement to difficult to recruit to essential roles, our approach to allowances for statutory officers, how we reward staff for additional duties over a period of time, and annual leave, etc. The policy presented differs little from the current policy, but I'd like to highlight some positive changes. Following the 22-23 pay negotiations that concluded in November 2022, £1,925 was added to each spinal column point, which means the lowest pay point is now £21,189 gross per annum, which is an increase of 9.99%. At the top of the spinal column, the points this equates to a 3.98% increase. This means that the differential between our lowest paid employee and the chief executive is now a multiplier of 5.56. The guidance is that that multiplier should not exceed 10. The local weighting has been increased to £663. Also, all members of staff will receive an additional 1 day's paid leave in the year starting 1st of April 2023, prorated for part-time staff, plus an additional bank holiday for the King's coronation. This supports the Council's ambitions for the well-being of its staff, and I therefore move the recommendation on page 274. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cutting. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Alder.
The contribution that our staff make to the successful running of this council. So happy to second.
Thank you, Councillor Alder. Does any member wish to comment or ask a question? No? Okay, thank you. Oh, sorry, Councillor Redfern.
I'm sorry, again, maybe you'll be able to answer this question. Does this pay policy statement include perhaps an uplift for this coming year that hasn't been agreed yet? I'm thinking about my motion later on, and I can't really see what the relationship is between this and that. I may have to abstain from this, even though it seems fairly good to read at the moment, because I can't line it up with my motion.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Cutting, do you want to reply to that?
Well, I don't think the two are specifically related. I mean, the agenda item 14, I've covered the pay policy statement. Agenda item 18A, local government pay to council, is a motion to be considered at that time. I have nothing further to add, I'm afraid.
Thank you, Councillor Cutting. Does any other member have any questions or comments on this motion? No? Okay, thank you. So there is one recommendation, recommendation A, on page 274 of the agenda pack. So members, can you please raise your hands to indicate whether you're in favour of this motion, please? Thank you. Are there any against? No? And then are there any abstain? Can you put your hands? Is it 8? 8 abstain. Okay. Thank you. That is carried. Next agenda item is agenda item 15, review of the Constitution. I invite the chairman of the Member Constitution Review Group, Councillor Jeff Williamson, to present this report. Councillor Williamson.
Thank you, Chairman. I did appreciate the break with the last item. Okay, as chairman of the Member Constitution Review Group, I would like to present some further changes we are recommending to the Constitution. Many of these are minor updates to reflect changes in terminology and so forth. Of more significance is the change as shown in Appendix A. This brings the criteria for questions that can be asked by council members to the same as those for members of the public, in particular in relation to questions not about a matter for which the council has any responsibility or which does not affect the district, and when a question is substantially the same as one which has been put in the previous 6 months. I would also like to draw members' attention to an amendment on page 312, where a new clause 4.26.5b is being recommended, which reads, "The executive member for financial sustainability has been given delegated authority to authorise the sale of any single asset held by the council up to the value of £500,000. For complete clarity, I'd like to add the following words to that phrase so that it would continue, as advised and recommended by officers as being in the interest of the council and where expediency is required and the matter cannot wait until the next ordinary meeting of the executive. Any such authorisation by the executive member for financial sustainability is subject to the council's member call-in procedure as described in section 5, paragraph 5.31 of this constitution." So, Chairman, subject to that amendment, there is the one recommendation on page 290 that we'd like to move. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. Can I have a seconder, please, for that proposal? Seconder for that proposal, please. Councillor Deering, that's not the name I've got on the list, but
I'm happy to settle it.
thank you, Councillor Deering.
But I'm happy to unreserve my right. Thank you.
Thank you very much. So I hope you will note that the Councillor Williamson has proposed an amendment to the report, which is in Appendix C. Do any members have a comment or question? Councillor Goldspink.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Well, I'm still not very happy about the proposed change, which Councillor Williamson has talked about, even with his extra words and his amendment. I still think it would be much better if Councillor Williamson discussed the proposed sale of this asset with other members of the executive, and I would have thought it would be possible either to have an emergency meeting or to do it by email. It was previously a requirement that he would consult with the executive before making such a big decision to sell such a valuable asset. And I think myself that it should stay like that, and he should not be allowed just to do it himself, albeit discussion with officers. I'm not happy about this. I will be voting against that. Thank you.
Councillor Williamson, do you want to reply to that?
I appreciate Councillor Goldspink's comments. It's noted.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions or comments on this motion? No? Okay. Thank you. So with the amendment that Councillor Williamson has made, and I hope that's quite clear to everybody, there is one recommendation on page 290 of the agenda pack. Members, could you please raise your hands to indicate whether you are in favour of this motion with the amendment that Councillor Williamson has made? Thank you. Are there any against? That is 5 against, I think. And any abstain? 3 abstain. 5 against, 3 abstain. Thank you very much. That is carried. Thank you. The next agenda item is agenda item 16, which is the protocol for the appointment of honorary aldermen. It's on pages 341 to 350 of your agenda pack. I'd like to invite the chairman of the Member Constitution Review Group, once again, Councillor Jeff Williamson, to present this report, please. Thank you.
Thank you, Chairman. Okay, the Member Constitution Review Group has also taken the opportunity to consider the current arrangements for conferring the title of honorary alderman to councillors following their period of serving on the council. The present protocol requires a member to have served a period of at least 5 terms. As part of this review, we noted that the Local Government Act 1972 states that the council may confer the title of honorary alderman on any person who, in the opinion of the council, has rendered eminent service to the council as a past member of the council, and that the Act does not state any qualifying time limit. In the opinion of the review group, therefore, the current arrangements disadvantage former councillors who have not served for as long as 5 terms, but who have nonetheless given eminent service during their time. The proposal is therefore to reduce the qualifying period so that a member must have served a minimum of 2 terms to be nominated, and then satisfy the criteria as stipulated in the paper. We feel this is more in the spirit of the provision within the Local Government Act. However, in presenting this tonight, we are open to views from members whether the 2-term minimum period is appropriate, or whether a longer period may be proposed, or if indeed it should remain at 5 terms. So there is one recommendation currently standing on page 341, but appreciate this may be amended subject to any discussion. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor Williamson. Can I have a seconder, please? Councillor Kay?
Yes, happy to second.
Thank you. Is there any comments or questions from members? Yes.
Yeah, thank you, Chairman. I'm not that comfortable that a 2-term period is sufficient to warrant honorary alderman status. The current 5-year term, yeah, I agree, it is too long. But can I suggest that 3 terms may be more suitable? I believe a 2-term period of service does somewhat undermine the honorary status of an alderman, and it does not constitute eminent service. So I really do believe that a 3-term period might be more suitable. If you look at the current council we have here today, if we went with the 2-term period, it would mean that half this council, when they leave the council, would be entitled to alderman status. I myself would be entitled to an alderman status, and I actually don't believe I warrant alderman status. To me, it's no, I really do. I really do. No, it's no, it's very much an honorary.
Thank you, Councillor Jane. Are you proposing an amendment?
I would propose 3 years would be more appropriate. 3
Okay.
terms, 3 terms.
So that's an amendment to this motion.
Yeah.
Okay. I need a seconder for that proposal.
Need a second first.
Yeah.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm
a
happy
seconder
to
first.
second what Jeff has said. Like him, I think 2 terms is too short. I think the current terms that we've got is too long, and I think if we settle somewhere in the middle, I think we can sort of satisfy hopefully both sides.
Thank you, Councillor Wiley. Councillor Snowden.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'd make 2 points. First of all, that long service by itself is no necessarily precondition for making a very large significant contribution to public life, and they are different criteria, so you do need to make both that significant contribution and have the long service. I would also note that at the time that these would first have been set, presumably around the time of the Local Government Act 72, the term of this council was 3 years, not 4. So there has been an upward trajectory in the length of service as a result of the extension of district councils' terms from 3 to 4 years. So I'd be very cognizant of that in these deliberations.
Thank you, Councillor Snowden. Councillor Buckmaster.
I was only going to say, Chairman, I'd have preferred to have heard more views before we go straight to proposing
If
a
somebody,
second amendment.
proposes it, you've
No.
got to second it.
Okay, but that's fine.
Councillor Crofton.
Yeah, I think Jeff's got a point, because I think in theory, if you're after you can't take chairmanship of a committee in your first year, and you certainly can't take chairmanship of the council in your first year. So that really only gives you one term to make a difference at this council. So I think 3 would be far more appropriate, and I'd support your amendment. Yeah.
Thank you, Councillor Crofton. Councillor Redfern.
I would agree with that. If that's 3 terms is 12 years, I think that's, am I correct in thinking that? Yes. I think that's far more sensible time.
Thank you. Councillor Hazy.
Thank you. I think there is a couple of points. One is, are they consecutive? Can you have a break in the middle? Do you then come back and it's all then added up together to get to your 12 years? I don't know. That detail has not yet been determined. I think the other thing is one area I'm concerned of. I quite recognise that length of time does not necessarily equate to quality of service. But I think some of us, I work in a rural ward, and on the whole, the issues that I get in my rural ward do not compare with some of the issues that you face if you are in a urban ward. So if you don't have no other contribution except for your ward work, and you're in a quiet rural ward, how is that quality of contribution actually going to be evaluated?
Thank you. Does any member wish to comment or ask a question? Yes.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I think the interesting question here really is how high do we set the bar for becoming an honorary alderman? And I think it's right that we should set it high, but length of service is not necessarily an indication of quality of service. And if somebody has done something really exceptional, even if they've only been on the council for 8 years, then that should be considered. That being said, it needs to be seen from the point of view that it has been something exceptional, and as Jeff says, not just 8 years of service. The other thing I think we should bear in mind is that we are all democratically elected members, and for whatever reason, our electorate may not always choose to return us, which may then lead to us being 4 years out of action. And therefore, the higher criteria may be quite a challenge for members who, for whatever reason, are maybe in a more marginal ward, or who do have a break in their length of service, even possibly for family reasons. So that maybe should incline us to think, should we be tending towards a shorter minimum term, but basing it very firmly on quality of service rendered.
Yeah, I'll say something pertinent now. Chairman. No, I was just thinking, if the view of members is to raise it to 3 years, then I would
3 terms.
Sorry, 3 terms. I would suggest taking out the other part, which is the exceptional service, because I think it is quite exceptional to be on a council for 12 years. So I think we can't include it for both, but that's just my view.
Okay, thank you. Councillor Deering.
Well, thank you very much. Didn't actually put my hand up. Personally, but you know, why should I resist the opportunity? Personally, I don't feel hugely strongly about this. I agree with the comments made. It's not just you know, the length of service; it's quality of what you do, isn't it? But I don't feel hugely strongly. I'm very relieved that Jeff's ruled himself out. Obviously, that's great. I suppose on the debate, I would go for 3 terms. Yeah, I'll go for 3 terms since you.
Okay, thank you. Are there any more comments? This is on the amendment on the 3 terms, please. Any more comments? Councillor Fernando.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Just to echo some of the comments made, I do take the points made. I do think 3 terms probably makes more sense, but I would favour it not being consecutively, given the reasons Councillor Kemp has outlined as well. And also in terms of the exceptionability, the fact that it shouldn't just be about length of service. I think the fact that it has to come to council and 2/3 of members have to vote on it means that if someone comes forward that members don't believe is suitable, who have just provided the minimum length of term, they wouldn't be put forward.
Thank you. Any more comments or questions? Councillor Kay.
Thank you, Chairman. As the original seconder of or the original proposal, I think it is, as people have been saying, it's quantitative. It's qualitative rather than quantitative. It's not years. I don't think we are going to see in this council. We've heard earlier on this evening councillors who've been in position maybe for 20 years or in one case 47 years. I don't think we're going to be seeing that in the years to come. That doesn't mean that people are not necessarily going to be re-elected. I just think that our way of life is different, and there are a whole range of reasons why we're not likely perhaps to see that sort of length of time. So it does make sense to shorten it. The key words are eminent service to the council, not the amount of years that you actually put in. So personally, I haven't got any strong views whether it's 2 or 3 terms.
Thank you, Councillor Kay. Councillor Jones.
Yeah, if I could just clarify, I mean, in 2.5 on page 342, any person nominated must meet the following criteria. So that's all these criteria. A, has made significant contribution to public life. B, has given notable service on behalf of the council, which has enhanced the reputation of councillors and the council itself. C, has rendered a minimum of 8 years, blah, blah, blah. So and is no longer an elected member. So what I'm proposing is we just change C to 3 terms.
Thank you.
So 12 years and not necessarily consecutive.
Good. Okay. Thank you. Councillor Dumont, and then I want to go to the vote.
Yeah, it was just an observation really, but there does seem to be sort of different rules from who can speak more than once. I noticed that Councillor Redfern couldn't, and other people seem to have done. I don't know. In this
No,
debate.
nobody else has spoke twice. I think that was a proposal.
Okay, fair enough.
If-
I'll just also
if I may, just on that point, I think there was a point of clarity which you're allowed to at any point during a debate. If you want to clarify something that you said previously, you can do that. I think Councillor Jones did say that he wanted to clarify that he only wanted to change that one element. So that was a point of clarity rather than an additional comment, if you like.
Thank you. Councillor Dumont.
and I just wanted to sort of make the point that it's quite interesting. This is the point on the agenda that's had the most debate on it all evening. When we've been talking about budgets, we're now talking about how we can effectively congratulate ourselves in the future. So I just wanted to make that point. Not that it's not an important one, but it just surprises me. This is the one that's had the most comments of the evening.
Okay, thank you. Are there any more comments or questions on this before we go to the vote? Okay, so this vote is for the original item plus sorry, the amendment is for 3 terms, not 2 terms. So can we vote on the amendment, please? All those in favour? Thank you. All those against the amendment? 1 against and any abstain? Oh, there's 1 abstain. Oh, 2 abstain, sorry. 3. All right. There's 1 against, 3 abstain. So the amendment is carried. So the amendment becomes a substantive item. So now,
okay.
we go straight to the back. Okay. Now we get a debate on the amended item, which is the 3 terms. Can we have any comments or questions? Councillor Fernandez.
Sorry, can I just point of clarification, given Councillor Jones's clarification? Is it 3 terms non-consecutively?
3 terms non-consecutively was what was proposed.
Thank you for clarifying clarification.
Thank you. Are there any more comments or questions? Councillor Kemp.
Maybe the correct wording would be something like 3 terms which may be non-consecutive, because we wouldn't want to rule out people who have served 3 terms consecutively.
Okay. So it can be consecutively or non-consecutively. 3 terms.
And maybe
are there any more comments or questions?
Sorry, I just wanted, and maybe I could also comment about the points about some length of discussion. Yes, we have pushed through the budgets relatively quickly, but that is because there has been extensive discussion, exploration, debate, consideration of those over a period of many months, whereas this is only just coming to us now, and therefore has led to a little more immediate debate.
Thank you. Any more questions or comments from members before we go to the vote? Okay, thank you. So we're now going to go to the vote, which is the amended proposal, which is the 3 terms. So all those in favour of this proposal, please raise your hands. Thank you. All those against? None against, and any abstain? 1 abstain, I believe. Okay, thank you. That is carried. So now we go to, I'm getting confused now where we are. 17. Okay. Right, we're going to item 17, which is the extension of the 2022-2023 member allowance scheme. And I invite the head of Legal and Democratic Services to present this report, please.
Thank you, Chairman. The Local Authorities Members Allowances England Regulations 2003 state that the Independent Remuneration Panel should establish and produce a report making recommendations to the scheme of members' allowances. Some of you will recall that the annual council held on 11th of May 2002 had the last report of the IRP, which set out the current scheme of members' allowance, which means it's in place for a 1-year period, which means it's coming up to the point where the IRP would have normally been looking to do its work to set the new scheme of members allowance going forward into the next year. Because we have an election on the horizon, it was felt that it would make more sense to allow time for that to happen. The IRP do like to interview certain members. They will interview chairman of councils of committees. They'll interview the leader. They'll interview leaders of the opposition. Clearly, we don't know what that will look like after the election, and therefore it would make we are proposing it would make more sense to allow a little bit more time to allow the IRP to have those discussions with members who are in those roles post-election. That being the case, we do need to extend the current scheme of allowances that are in place just to take us to the other side of the election, and then we can then obviously kick off the IRP process at that point.
Thanks, James. Can I have a proposer for this extension, please? Councillor Hazy. Thank you. Can I have a seconder, please? Thank you, Councillor Kemp.
Yes, happy to propose and reserve my right to speak.
Thank you. Does any member wish to comment or ask a question? Councillor Goldspink.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. The Liberal Democrat Group is happy to support this proposal.
Thank you. Any other members wish to comment or ask a question? No? Okay. So members, there is one recommendation, which is recommendation A on page 351 of your agenda pack. Can I have a show of hands for all those who are in favour of this extension? Thank you. Are there any against? And any abstain? No, that's unanimous. Thank you very much. That is carried. Now we go to agenda item 18, which is motions on notice. One motion on notice has been submitted. And this is motion 18A, local government pay to council, a fully funded proper pay rise for council workers. It's on pages 367, 368 of your agenda pack. And I invite Councillor Caroline Redfern to present her motion on notice.
Thank you, Chair. This council notes that local government has endured central government funding cuts of more than 50% since 2010. Between 2010 and 2020, councils lost 60 pence out of every pound they have received from central government. So councils across England are now facing a collective funding gap of £2.4 billion for the financial year 2023-24 and a cumulative funding gap of £4.08 billion for 2024-25, according to Unison Research. Councils led the way in efforts against the COVID-19 pandemic, providing a huge range of services and support for our communities. Local government has shown more than ever how indispensable it is, but COVID has led to a massive increase in expenditure and loss of income. And as we emerge from the pandemic, local authorities need far more support from Westminster. Council workers kept our communities safe through the pandemic, often putting themselves at considerable risk as they work to protect public health, provide quality housing, and look after older and vulnerable people. Since 2010, the local government workforce has endured years of pay restraint, with the majority of pay points losing at least 25% of their value since 2009-10. Staff are now facing the worst cost of living crisis in a generation, with inflation hitting 10% and many having to make impossible choices between food, heating, and other essentials. This is a terrible situation for anyone to find themselves in. At the same time, workers have experienced ever-increasing workloads and persistent job insecurity. Across the UK, 900,000 jobs have been lost in local government since June 2010, a reduction of more than 30%. Local government has arguably been hit by a more severe job losses than any other part of the public sector. There has been a disproportionate impact on women, with women making up more than 3/4 of the local government workforce. Recent research shows that if the government were to fully fund the union's 2023 pay claim, around half of the money would be recouped thanks to increased tax revenue, reduced expenditure on benefits and tax credits, and increased consumer spending in the local economy. This council believes our workers are public service superheroes. They keep our communities clean and safe, look after those in need, and keep our towns and cities running. Without the professionalism and dedication of our staff, the council services our residents rely on would not be deliverable. Local government workers deserve a proper real terms pay increase. The government needs to take responsibility and fully fund this increase. It shouldn't put the burden on local authorities whose funding has been cut to the bone and who were not offered adequate support through the COVID-19 pandemic. So this council resolves to support the pay claims submitted by Unison, the GMB and Unite on behalf of council workers for an increase of the RPI +2. Call on the Local Government Association to make urgent representations to central government to fund the NJC claim, and write to the Chancellor and Secretary of State to call for a pay increase for local government workers to be funded with new money from central government, and meet with the local NJC union representatives to convey support for the pay claim and consider practical ways in which the councils can support the campaign. And finally, encourage all local government workers to join a union. And that's the end of the motion.
Thank you, Councillor Redfern. Can I have a seconder for that motion, please? Yes, Councillor Brady. Thank you. Does any member wish to comment on this motion? Yes, Councillor Cutting.
Thank you, Chairman. I'd just like to reaffirm that this council appreciates the efforts made by all of its employees, regardless of role or responsibility, pay grade, etc. However, all negotiations for East Herts Council pay and conditions are done through national negotiations. Except for the CEX and DCEX, all of our staff are covered by the Green Book, and the National Joint Council, NJC, are the body responsible for those negotiations and agreements. All councils are invited to offer views through relevant consultation processes, and we abide by the agreement reached between employer side and unions. Negotiations for 2023-2024 pay award are underway. The other two national bodies offer chief executives and chief officers pay and conditions, as I referred to earlier, CEX and DCEX. And again, we follow the agreements made at national level, and these are normally mirrored against the Green Book staff. However, members will be aware the council worker pay deal has been announced nationally, whereby council workers on the lowest pay have been offered a rise of over 9%. Around 1.5 million people in a range of roles would get an increase of at least £1,925 from April under this deal, which is now being considered by unions. The Local Government Association said the lowest paid staff on £20,411 a year would see the biggest lift of 9.2% under the deal. This contributes to an overall increase of 22% since April 2021, when previous rises were taken into account. Council staff on higher pay would see a smaller rise of 3.88%. The offer would result in a £1.093 billion or 6.42% increase to the national pay bill, similar to the current average for private sector pay deals. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Cutting. Are there any other comments or questions from any members? Councillor Goldspink.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I would like to support this motion. It's interesting to hear from Councillor Cutting that there are national negotiations and standards set, and I think that is a good thing. But if the workers concerned are not happy with what is being offered, and if we as a council think that the settlement is not fair and we think something more should be done, I would have thought that we're perfectly entitled to say to these national bodies that we appreciate what you've done, but we don't think it is good enough. And also, I think it is interesting, the paragraph about the financial implications, that if the government were to fully fund what is being asked for, the government would recoup more money in income tax recoups, and there would be reduced dependency on benefits and support generally. So there could be very many good financial benefits from agreeing to this. The other thing, of course, is we are all very supportive of our workers, and the councils could not run, we could not provide the services without these willing workers who are public servants and who provide excellent service to us all. The other thing is, if they're not happy with their pay, they will go and look for jobs elsewhere, and then the council has to end up employing agency workers who are much more expensive than the ordinary workforce. So I think this motion has a lot to commend it, and I, for one, will be strongly supporting it. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Goldspink. Any other comments from any members? Yes, Councillor Wills.
Thank you. I also would like to support the motion. I echo what Councillor Goldspink said, that when we don't pay people properly, as we know, we can see them leave for the private sector. When that happens, you actually incur often more costs than it would cost to give a pay rise that they're satisfied with, because, as Councillor Goldspink said, you're going to look at then over time, temporary locum staff. You can have mistakes made more often due to inexperience and low ability of the lower paid staff. So I think we have to be looking at a balance here, and also that there was a time when public sector workers were more valued than they are now, I feel. They had job security, a good pension, and appreciation of their public service. I think we need to make sure that we do value them so they do stay in their roles longer.
Thank you, Councillor Wilson. Councillor Dumont.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. So, yeah, I mean, it's a shame that we can't, as a council, agree on this motion. The Liberal Democrats are going to vote in favour of this. I thought it would set the scene, considering there's probably going to be an administration change in May, that we could agree on this, and then we could agree on future motions and work together in the future. But I'm a little bit confused by the comments from Councillor Cutting. So I'm understanding, yes, there are channels to negotiate pay, but this motion sets out some resolutions. So I'm a bit unsure what the executive, which parts of it they do and don't agree with.
Thank you. Councillor Cutting, do you
Thank
want
you,
to come
Chairman,
back?
and thank you, Councillor Dumont, for your opinion. I don't have a crystal ball. None of us do. But all I can fall back on is that the negotiations for East Herts Council pay are done through national negotiations. And I fail to understand how whatever we decide here tonight can impinge on that. There are significant sums of money on the table nationally. And the lowest paid have been offered a rise of over 9%. Now they either accept that or reject it or renegotiate through the national negotiations that have been laid down.
Thank you. I think that makes it clear. Are there any more comments or questions? Yes, Councillor Kemp.
Thank you. It is surely the place of the national negotiators for both the employers and the employees to come to a conclusion, and it's up to the employees then to vote for whether they wish to accept that conclusion. It seems that we should not be second guessing what the outcome of those negotiations should be. We do, of course, all recognise the great contribution made by our council staff. And I personally, and I think all of us, are very pleased to hear that the lowest paid staff are being particularly recognised and supported in the pay deal that's being proposed at this time of great stringency. The proposers of the motion were asking about which parts we might or might not support. I think that perhaps the same question could be turned back, in that the motion is a very long portmanteau motion, some bits of which we might agree with, some of which we might not agree with, and it would be very difficult to approve it en masse. Perhaps more specific motions might be helpful in establishing these sorts of questions in future.
Are there any other comments or questions? No. Right. The mover of the original motion has the right of reply. So, Councillor Redfern, do you want to say?
I agree that it does seem to be a portmanteau motion, but most of the motions we've agreed tonight are portmanteau motions, in my opinion. When I picked out a particular... Well, most of the other decisions, beg your pardon, most of the other decisions we've made tonight are portmanteau decisions.
Councillor, you've been here for 4 years. You must know the difference between a paper to vote
Of
on
course I do.
and a motion.
Point of order. I think if we listen back on the tape, the chairman has referred to a number of things as motions when there've been recommendations this evening.
I don't really see the point of shouting at me, actually, Leader. I don't think that helps anyone. I do think this is a long motion, I agree, and I do think there are bits that you could disagree with, but I feel I'm in that position all the time. And I think words do not pay rent. Words of thanks do not buy food, and words of thanks do not pay rent, but words of thanks do not buy houses. Money does. And we're talking about money for real people here. And I feel quite passionate about it, I'm afraid, and I will not be shouted down. So obviously it's up to you to vote for or against it, but I'll just leave it there. Thank you.
Thank you. Members, the motion is set out on page 367 and 368 of your agenda pack. Can we have a show of hands whether you're in favour of this motion? I think that's 8 in favour. All those against, please. And any abstain? Thank you. That is not carried. Thank you, members. That concludes tonight's business. I declare this meeting closed at 9.